Hey, this is Brendan from Comic Con. Today we've got some special guests with us. We have Barbara Dillon, the editor-in-chief of Fanbase Press. We also have Jordan Hart, who is the creator, writer, and colorist for a book called Ripple Effects that's actually been out for a minute, but there's a new edition coming to Kickstarter at the end of this year, a deluxe hardcover edition that's got some really cool features to it. So I'm going to welcome right now Barbara Dillon and Jordan Hart, and let's talk about this book. How you doing, Barbara and Jordan?
Hey, Brendan, thank you so much for having us.
Cool.
Doing great.
So
Yep.
nice. So the synopsis says, in a world that is no stranger to superheroes, George Gibson is invulnerable to physical harm but fights every day to stay alive, suffering from an acute case of type 1 diabetes. His invincibility is offset by a defective pancreas that must be monitored and treated daily. This incurable disease makes George's body both his greatest strength and his eternal weakness. That sounds fascinating. Jordan, where did you come up with the idea for this?
This idea derives through my own lived experiences with an invisible disability. I have thrombophilia, which is an incurable blood clotting disease. I wasn't born with it. It started when I was 25. Started getting blood clots. They weren't sure why, and was quickly diagnosed with that. There is no cure, so I am on medication every day for the foreseeable future. Hopefully there'll be a cure one day. So I stay positive on that. And, when I was on bed rest for about 3 months at one point, and the idea came to me where, well, I have to be on an internal medication to stay alive. How interesting would it be if there was a superhero that was invincible, that nothing could hurt him externally from the outside? He was bulletproof, fireproof, but his own body was his own kryptonite, his own supervillain that was plotting against him. So that's where the story derives from. And then I started writing it. I had it for about 10 years, and I just couldn't. It started with George, the main character, being having thrombophilia, and it was just opening too many wounds every time I tried to write. So one of my closest friends has been a type 1 diabetic since he was 7 years old, and he's been a comic fan for even longer. So I knew with him consulting and guiding and answering my questions, I'd be able to tell a accurate story about a type 1 diabetic, relying on him for the physical parts of the story, and then pulling on my experiences for the more internal feelings and emotional side of having an invisible disability.
Well, that's really cool, and I think that representation is really important. I have a son who's got cystic fibrosis, which is the number one orphan disease, the most popular orphan disease. And orphan disease means it's got fewer than 100,000 cases in the United States or whatever. So it's kind of funny to say it's the most popular orphan disease, it's the most popular rare disease, I guess. And then everybody knows people that have diabetes or people that suffer from migraines and things, and you don't typically see those types of weaknesses in superheroes. And obviously, this superpower has been done before with David Dunn in Unbreakable and Translucent in The Boys. And, it kind of brings up that question, like, how does Superman shave? If his body's invulnerable, how do you cut how is he always clean shaven or whatever? So it's kind of a cool mashup of those two kind of concepts, is this, externally invulnerable person that just could very well die from something as common as being a diabetic passing out. If he's unconscious, who else is going to be able to help him? And I think that comes, am I allowed to say that comes up in the first chapter? Because we can cut it out if it's too big.
I think you could say yes, but we'll leave it to the editor in chief.
Totally.
Okay, so the one of the things that happens is, okay, so you've got this superhero now, or this person who's discovering their abilities, and they pass out from low blood sugar. He's the only person who can pierce his own skin. So what happens in this case? And it's actually it's a big cliffhanger that happens in the very first chapter. So that's a very cool thing. So the deluxe, this story's been out there. You've won a ton of awards. I'm looking at an Eisner. I'm looking at a Harvey Award, the Dwayne McDuffie Award for Diversity in Comics, American Library Association's Forward Indies Book of the Year. So you've won a ton of awards with this, and now you're coming out with a new edition. What inspired you to make the deluxe hardcover, and then what new things are going to come with this book?
I'm happy to tackle that one. So we have been so fortunate and so grateful to provide a home for Ripple Effects and to be working with Jordan and everyone involved in the original series, which I will highlight also includes a lot of individuals who have their own invisible disabilities and illnesses. After every chapter of the original series, we would have an essay by an individual with everything from MS to diabetes, paranoid schizophrenia, relating their lived experience to what happens in the narrative story. So we're so grateful to work with those people, but we wanted to do even more in being able to raise awareness for invisible disabilities and illnesses. Brendan, like you were mentioning, there are just so many, and there are so many folks struggling with this every day, or just making it part of their everyday lives. And we wanted to be able to reach not only those people, but also their loved ones, and to allow this opportunity to be seen, to be represented, because I think we all know how powerful stories are and how powerful that representation can be. So if we had the opportunity to, even greater increase that awareness and the representation, we absolutely wanted to do so.
That's fantastic. And then I saw a cool thing on here, and I want to mention it because, the artwork thing for the new book is you've got children with invisible diseases, and they're pairing up with professional comic book artists, and so the kids are going to draw themselves as superheroes. If I understand this right, you can correct me, but the kids are going to draw themselves as a superhero, and then the professional artist is going to go and take that art and elevate it to like a professional level. But then you're going to be able to see those side by side, like that just sounds so insanely powerful. Can you tell me a little bit about how that process went?
Absolutely. So we wanted to, as much as possible, just like we did with the original series and the essays, we wanted to provide that direct, own voice of individuals who are living with various disabilities and illnesses. And so we wanted to take that a step further. It's always a very cool thing with backmatter to have art galleries, but we were thinking, we've got a lot of adults who are speaking to their lived experience. What would it be like? How can we raise the awareness for kiddos who have those experiences? Because there's maybe so different from an adult who has had time to process and acknowledge what their lived experiences are. So we decided that it would be a really fun for them, a fun way to incorporate kiddos by asking them to do a drawing of themselves as a superhero, and then providing us with context of explaining what does make them a superhero. And so we've also brought in and paired them with professional artists, everyone from Liana Kangas, Ray Anthony Height, Donna Gilio, and Manuel Martinez, and they are doing a professional rendering of the kiddos' drawings. And so we'll pair them together in the book. And then as a brief spoiler, we'll be having an exciting auction, which I don't want to give too many details, but we'll essentially be auctioning off that artwork, both from the kiddos and the adult artists, and donate it to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, closer to
Oh,
the campaign. Yeah.
that is so cool. So I was going to ask, and I forgot to ask in pre-interview, so I didn't want to bring it up, if this was going to be benefiting any charities. Make a Wish is fantastic. My son is a Wish kid. We just got back from our Make a Wish trip in February, and it is just incredible what these organizations do. Make a Wish is individual chapters in different states and things like that, different areas. But just as an overreaching charity, they are very, very generous, and I can't even tell you. I'm starting to get choked up a little bit. But the amount of good that each one of those chapters does for each child, and like my kid was a rock star for an entire week. Like we didn't go anywhere or do anything where he was not the center of attention. And I gotta tell you, it kind of went to his head. We're dealing with the after effects of that now still.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's very cool. And talking about representation and seeing a child with an invisible disease able to see themselves as a superhero. That actually happened too in a different case where somebody was making a super or a cystic fibrosis superhero, and they asked us if we wanted to participate with that, and I helped them out a little bit with some promotion and things. But they sent us a picture of my son as a cystic fibrosis superhero, and he's still got the coloring pages and he draws on them all the time and stuff. So it's just that I love everything about this project. I read the first part, I read the intro, I read and that intro is very powerful too. The chapter stops all have these stories that come from people that either have experiences with or have the diseases themselves. So like, why is it so important to have those voices also be heard with this cool, fantastic story that's happening around it?
Well, honestly, I think the idea came from Jordan. I mean, his and Jordan, I don't want to speak for you. I'll transition over to you. But in speaking about this project with him and with my partner Bryant, it was very much about demonstrating to individuals with various invisible disabilities and illnesses that they matter, that they're unique, that their experiences are not uncommon, in that they're simply not alone. And I think that's the biggest thing, is letting folks know that they're not alone, that there are others out there. And I think that's the entire ethos of the story as well. But Jordan, I'll pass things over to you.
I mean, yeah, Barbara perfectly captured it. It really also derived from after I was diagnosed. As I mentioned, I was 25, so I was already adult, out of school. I thought my life was kind of where it's going, and then you get thrown this curveball, and it was a very isolating experience. It was a very tough experience. I think anyone can relate to that. And the only thing that really helped me get through it was talking to other people that were living with their own invisible illnesses, their chronic diseases, their invisible disabilities, how they got through the initial diagnosis, or what they do on the daily to just get through it. And through talking with others is how I was able to, really put things into perspective and just not feel alone and feel part of a community. And that was the most important thing to me about this story. It's frankly the only reason I wrote this story. Was if you or someone has an invisible illness and has been going through this or living with it, like, I just always have wanted people to read this story and feel like they're not alone, to feel like they're part of a community. And having these essays by real people that work in the comic industry after each chapter, to me, is just another way to really hammer that home and be like, yes, this is a story about a fictional superhuman who is a type 1 diabetic, but here's an essay that relates to that issue. Each real essay from a person in the industry relates to the chapter that was just covered fictionally in the story. So that was just a way to really bring the community to the forefront, I would say, and just remind people that they're not alone.
That's, dude. I'm really like, when my editor in chief, who's also our producer, Eric, right there, sent this to me, and he was like, hey, I'd like you to cover this thing. And I started reading. I was like, wow, dude, I really want to cover this. And talking to you guys, I really, really, really feel good about this book, and that it's being made, and just your guys' motivation behind it and stuff like that is fantastic. I did have a question. So we're doing type 1 diabetes, and we're talking about all these other invisible illnesses. There's so many out there. Almost everybody is fighting some kind of, whether it's a mental health crisis, or whether it's an invisible disease or an orphan disease, or, but at some point down the line, is there more to come in the world of ripple effects, or, or in the world of ripple effects, I guess, if you had more than one superhero that had the thing or whatever, but like, are there plans to represent different diseases down the line, or is this just kind of an all-encompassing thing that you kind of change out the chapter stops and the gallery in the back or whatever to make a new edition?
I'll take that, Jordan. I will say that we have a bonus story at the end of this issue. It does contain some of the same characters from the story, but I love working with Jordan. He's one of my favorite humans in the world, so I would be honored to work with him on future stories. This specific hardcover does not contain new characters. However, I certainly would not roll that out in the future, because we will always provide a home to Jordan at Fanbase Press for his work.
Nice. So Ripple Effects Volume 2 there's potential for that.
Oh yeah. Yes. Great potential, I would say. Great potential.
Nice. Okay, so you're working on this, Jordan. You are the creator, writer, and colorist, and you're working with Bruno. How do you say this last name? It's Kirilu? How do you say it?
Chirilu.
Chirilu. Okay.
Mhm.
Bruno Chirilu is the artist. And then you've got Oceano Ransford on letters, and Shane. Oh, man. You guys are killing me with these names. What is the last name?
Cadlichick.
Cadlichick. Oh, well, that makes perfect sense now that you've said it. So just with the creative team, like, what was it like working with this particular group?
It was really, really just rewarding and great. Everyone really was on board with the story first. I think everyone that came on board got the synopsis, got a little mini paragraph overview, and that just excited everyone. And it was very, you know, we didn't get anyone that said no. We had no passes. And I think that continued to, Barbara mentioned, for this hardcover, reaching out to artists to draw the superheroes, redraw what the children did. So everyone has just been really excited to work on this project, which is just such a great feeling. You know, when you have something that has the potential to be bigger than the medium, you know, and just really touch people. I think that's what any of us working in comics and any side of comics, really, that's, you know, that's what we're here for, is to just connect with people and touch them, you know, in some way. And I feel like this is a great way to do that, this story. So the whole team was very enthused, very excited. And that even extends to Justin Harder, who did the covers for each issue. He's doing the cover for the hardcover as well. He is a film and TV and entertainment artist, but just a lifelong comic fan, and was so moved by the story that he even lended his incredible talents for the covers. So yeah, it's just been great. It's been a joy.
Well, and that's really cool too, and that's an interesting point, is that cover artists and interior artists, it's a completely different industry almost. And the fact that you can hand somebody, like, we need these parameters, and they can get all the elements in there, because you need the foreground and the background and all the different things that line up, and, you know, there's a whole science to it. And the fact that somebody who doesn't work in this industry is able to nail it. So I mean, because the cover gallery is fantastic for this.
Great.
Justin, yeah, completely agree.
All right, one at a time. You guys are going to have to raise hands.
Sorry. Just default. Barbara leads off. We'll just go with that. That's the default.
No, I was just saying, Justin is really phenomenal. I mean, like Jordan has said, he has worked in TV and film for so long and been on, you know, the biggest projects in the industry. And so to be able to have his talents on the book, and especially to have an all new wraparound cover for the hardcover, it looks phenomenal. We're super excited about it, but he's such a wonderful person as well. And so to be able to collaborate with him again is really a treat.
It's Ripple Effects. It's going to be going on Kickstarter in the end of 2024. I tried to nail them down for a closer date than that. They would not give it to me. Super top secret. But it's coming sometime later, but before 2025 is what we're shooting for. You guys mentioned that you're going to be at San Diego Comic-Con. Is there anything special that you're doing at San Diego Comic-Con for this book? Any presentations? Are you paneling on it?
Jordan and I will be doing a few panels. Some of them will be regarding libraries, because honestly, that's a huge part of this book, and enabling greater access for librarians, for educators, because this is so important to be taught in classrooms, and it has been used in college curricula at this point. But yes, we will definitely have postcards. We will be doing panels about it. Well, also, actually, this week, we are headed to the American Library Association annual conference, where Jordan will be doing some signings. Fanbase Press will have a big booth, booth number 245, if you'll be in attendance. And the only other thing that I'll mention is that as part of the Kickstarter, it's not something we've officially announced, but again, given our love for librarians, given our love for educators, a lot of the backer rewards will be geared towards librarians and educators, including you can donate a copy of the book to your favorite library or your favorite school. We also have another tier that is buy a copy, donate a copy, so you can get one for yourself and still donate one as well. And if we make and exceed our goal, we will also have stretch goals to simply have us donate more copies to schools and libraries. So definitely an incentive to back the campaign.
Now, see, you opened up a whole other can of worms here, because I have talked about just ad nauseum. You can ask Eric when we go off the air here. Ad nauseum, I have talked about the value of comic books and graphic novels in education. When you're teaching somebody a new language and they have context clues because of the other words around that they know, but they also see what's happening on the page and things like that. But when we're doing fundraisers for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, when we're doing fundraisers for the Cystic Fibrosis Research Institute, CFRI, one of the things that has helped us out quite a bit is putting books in classrooms and putting books in libraries. Like Raina Telgemeier's got a book called Ghosts that has a fantastic story about a little girl with cystic fibrosis, and cystic fibrosis plays a part in the story, but it's not her entire identity, which is really important, I think. But we've donated books and we've read books in classrooms and stuff, and it's just, people just don't even realize how powerful graphic novels are as a media, and that, you know, when you're seeing the people on the page, when you're seeing the action happen and things like that, and you're seeing their struggles, and you're seeing the actual devices that they use to self-inject, those auto injectors are scary. You know, when you sit there, you look at the needle, because I don't have diabetes, but I used to have EpiPens, and when they expired, I used to take a cardboard and shove it so I'd shoot my sister across the room with it, because that thing goes, the pressure behind it goes like 16 feet across the room, and then you see the needle that comes out, and it's a stout little 2-inch needle, and you're like, that tears through your thigh into the. So anyway, libraries super important, and the educational panels that happen. I get really sad when I go to like New York Comic Con. You have to get on the subway and travel 90 minutes across town to go to a panel, versus like Denver Pop Culture Con, where the education panels are right next to the film panels, or right next to the comics panels, and they're all on site. So I think it's really, really fantastic that you're doing that, that those backer rewards exist. And I got to tell you, every single librarian that I know is going to have this information by the end of the day, because that's a really cool reward.
Thank you. We're so excited. And honestly, we're just so grateful to all of the educators and librarians out there, because they truly are on the front lines of access to education, information, knowledge right now. And, just battling all of the calls for censorship and for book bans and challenges. And so they're really being put through the ringer, but they have such a love of knowledge and, just access to that information that we're so grateful to them. And we want to be able to give back as much as we can.
Fantastic. I'm really excited about this. Really, really. But so this is Barbra Dillon, the EIC of Fanbase Press, and Jordan Hart, the creator, writer, and colorist of Ripple Effects. Ripple Effects is going back on Kickstarter at the end of this year sometime, with some really cool Ripple Effects backer rewards that include getting the education into libraries, into schools, into classrooms, into kids' hands. And I think that's really, really awesome. I want to thank you both for your time today, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Brandon.
you.